A human life must,
To
in
an
cold
extent, I
blood,
agree.
be taken for the moral order to be restored and maintained.
Oh no, if he brings abortion into this, I'm gonna jump off a bridge in Minecraft. Dude, he might be going there. Wait, oh no. He's going there, isn't he? That's why he said it's liberal. Oh no. So there's this little known fella known as Sargon of Akkad. He has a real name. I already forget what it is. He describes himself as an Englishman, and that's it. He is an Englishman, everybody. So Sargon of Akkad, I know that he was involved in Gamergate. He sexually harassed some people during that. But I don't know much else. I do know that he's a conservative and a piece of shit. Is he a Nazi, or is he like a he's definitely a fascist, right? I'm not sure. Anyway. He's got this video called Death as a Moral Necessity. Why am I down here also? Sorry, I forgot to fix this. There we go. He's got this video called Death as a Moral Necessity, and I wanted to take a look at it because somebody suggested it in the Discord. You can go to my Discord right now and suggest some videos if you would like, going to the Content Suggestions channel. The link to the Discord is in every YouTube description. You can go there right now. You can also type !Discord in the chat if you are currently in chat. But if you're watching this on YouTube, get to the Discord, suggest some content. It saves me a lot of work. Makes me it lets me be lazy while I do my job here, or one of my jobs here. All right, Sargon of Akkad, without further ado, why is death a moral necessity, Sargon? Please enlighten me.
Human sacrifice is simply something that the human race does, whether we like it.
Oh yeah, I saw his description also. We still practice human sacrifice, which is interesting, but go on.
Or not. In almost every era, there is some kind of ideology which prescribes, justifies, and sanctifies death. And in the modern era, it's very clear
and I don't think that's
that ideology is the most extreme left-wing form of liberalism, which leads left-wing parties to become the parties of death for the dead.
Wait, when has it ever been a liberal thing to do? That's always been like a religious thing, right? Like a conservative religious thing. Like we have to appease the gods by sacrificing one of our own, right? The blood gods crave the blood. That's not liberal.
Democratic age. The classic example of human sacrifice comes from Mesoamerica, in which the Aztec and the Mayan civilizations literally sacrificed war captives to nourish and placate the gods to ensure that the sun would indeed rise again the next day. The sacrifice was for a higher purpose, a divine ideal, and was concerned with the correct ordering of the cosmos.
Yeah, it's because people believed in a blood god. It's bad. Hot take, right? Blood sacrifice is bad. Hot take, I know, guys.
It was as much a moral act as it was a temporal one. The general shape of their thoughts
they might have believed it was moral.
There is a metaphysical plane in which morality is held to reside, and the real world ought to map closely to this plane in order to resemble it. Only in this way can our world be said to be righteous, proper, and just. The moral shape of our world must be brought into alignment with the spiritual world, so it might intersect with our own and infuse the ordering of our world with the moral substance of the other world.
It may have gone that deep for some people, but also some people were just like, yes, blood god wants blood. Blood god wants blood. Blood god makes sun come up and go down. We give blood god the blood. Sometimes that's as deep as it went for some people.
Finally,
I would say more often than not,
we have peace of mind that our world is a good world. Sacrifice, therefore, changes the ontological status of a civilization. The sacrifice takes them from being fallen, immoral, and subject to divine wrath by failing to uphold the mandates of the gods, to being in the favor of the gods, to being just, ordained, and upstanding. A human life must, in cold blood, be taken for the moral order to be restored and maintained.
Oh no, if he brings abortion into this, I'm gonna jump off a bridge in Minecraft. Dude, he might be going there. Wait, oh no. He's going there, isn't he? That's why he said it's liberal. Oh no. That's where he's going with this. Oh shit.
In the case of Mesoamerica, the more human lives that were sacrificed, the better.
Either that or he's going into severe racism, where it's like, yeah, every single brown person believes in human sacrifice because a few brown people did it one time.
I have actually completed a full audiobook of the Popol Vuh, the Mayan epic of creation, which I'll link in the description if you would like to understand why their worldview is like this. It is easy to draw parallels between the impetus behind Mesoamerican sacrifice.
Who called it? Citizen Godfather. Very good. Good job. Excellent. Well done. Holy shit. There it is. You called it, man. I didn't see it coming. Excellent job. Seriously, well done.
And the modern left, because now, as then,
abortion is just like religious sacrifice, if you really think about it. Especially when, like, a 12-year-old gets pregnant and it has a risk of dying as a result, right? Right, Sargon?
There is indeed a party of death, and it is a powerful moral force which impacts the very structure of our civilization. Consider the sacred status of abortion in left-wing thought. A core tenet of liberal ideology is the freedom of the will. Any contingent phenomenon which inhibits the freedom of the will
He thinks he's
immoral,
so smart.
And while a person's will is being...
This is how he chooses to represent himself with this stupid statue shit. Like, come on, man. You're not that smart. You're not all that. You're really not.
Justly contained by reality, whether that person is responsible for their own circumstances or not, then for the liberal, the spiritual plane of morality loses touch with the real world and must...
In order for any of this to have any credence, you have to buy into the notion that a fetus is a person. And conservatives don't even buy into that notion, okay? They don't. They don't. Because if you ask the vast majority of conservatives who are like pro-life, right, whether or not like women should be charged for murder when they get an abortion, most of them are going to say, no, I don't believe that, right? Like there's some cognitive dissonance going on with the average conservative. But I bet you that he wouldn't even say that like that's something we should do. Maybe he would. I don't know. I don't know Sargon that well, but maybe he would. But like, I just think that's insane because 1 in 3 women ever have had an abortion, at least in this nation. I'm fairly sure that's true.
Be brought back into line, or else the world becomes an unjust place.
We're also not the ones who support the death penalty.
Being
Good point.
Forced to mature into an adult who cares for their own child is thrust upon a woman against her will. Her ontological status changes. She is no longer free. She is now a mother, and tied down to obligations and duties which she did not wish to.
You should have the freedom to choose whether or not to be a mother. If you choose motherhood, you have used your freedom to choose motherhood. Like that should be a choice that you make. And sometimes people get pregnant by accident, and sometimes pregnancy is forced upon people by freaks, okay? Usually those freaks align with your side, mind you, all right? So in order to maximize their freedom, you say, here are your options. You can either terminate this pregnancy of this, it's got like a few cells, right? It doesn't have any functional brain or any kind of like capacity for learning or feeling or anything yet. So you can terminate it, you can flush it, or you can let it grow and then eventually it becomes a human. And then you take care of it. You are now tasked with taking care of it. And that is your choice. And it should remain your choice because it's your body. That's where, like, that's the bottom line. I wouldn't give conservatives that much slack. I wouldn't put it past them. I don't know what you're referring to. Oh, sorry. When I was talking about like the average conservative, there are a lot of conservatives that believe that women should be tried for murder if they try to get an abortion. But I don't think that's the majority of them. I think even people who like believe that abortion should be banned, for everybody for any reason. First of all, most conservatives don't even believe that. Most conservatives believe in abortion even if they believe in restrictions for it, believe in abortion to some extent. Like they believe that it should be legal and whatever. But what was I saying? I forget already. There are some, my point is there are some conservatives that believe that, but like, I don't think that's most of them. Only 40 to 50% of eggs get embedded. That's true. If you have sex and then the egg is fertilized 40 to 50% of the time, that thing comes out as a heavy period. That's true.
To adopt. In order
and
to
I don't give
free her of this
either.
burden,
It doesn't matter. It's not
abortion
human.
takes the
like
place
it's not a person.
of a holy right in liberal theology, as it accomplishes a...
No, it's based on science. It's not holy. It's literally life-saving in many circumstances, dude. And like also, it's holy in your eyes because you believe that a person becomes a person at the moment of conception. The moment that spermy meets eggy, okay, that's a person to you because you're insane.
Moral goal rather than a practical one. If a woman is unable to terminate the life of her unborn child, then she is subject to evil and immoral outcomes because her freedom of choice is being inhibited.
True.
A woman's right to choose death for her own progeny is, for the modern liberal, a sacred act of sacrifice.
Kill it. Kill it. If I could bring a fetus back to life just to kill it again, I would do that, actually. That's how much that I'm in favor of abortion.
If a woman is unable to terminate the life of her unborn child, then she is subject to evil and immoral outcomes because her freedom of choice is being inhibited. A woman's right to choose death for her own progeny is, for the liberal, a sacred act of sacrifice. If a woman is not able to choose and has her will thwarted in this way, then the cosmic order of the liberal universe is misaligned. And
motherfucker compared religious sacrifice, like religious human sacrifice, to abortion. F you, man.
Terrible injustice.
Disgusting. Very, very normal thing to do.
It is only the moral act of a human sacrifice that can bring the real world back into alignment with the liberal metaphysical plane and reinfuse our reality with the moral substance that will put the liberals' mind at
This is such abnormal speech, dude. Talk like you're a human, okay? You're not this grand philosopher that you think that you are, Sargon. You're really not, okay? Just talk like a normal human.
We see this in the
not beating the word
to
allegations.
The repealing of Roe versus Wade and the restoration of the question of abortion being returned back to the states. If this was...
What that translates to is less abortion will occur because more states will make it illegal. So whenever... Okay, let me give you guys a little bit of advice. Whenever somebody says it's states' rights, what they mean is that they're a pussy and they can't stand by what they actually believe. Because somebody who believes that abortion should be returned to, like that right, should be returned to the state to decide on, what they mean is they're pro-life, or sorry, I should say anti-choice, right? They're anti-abortion, and they want that to be returned to the state because they know that there are red states that will ban it, okay? Like, they're a pussy. They can't stick by their beliefs. That's what they mean when they say states' rights. Because if you believe that a state should have the right to make it law, you should also believe that the country should have the right to make it law, okay? Laws should be based on your moral principles. Like, what you believe a law should be, in my opinion, right? What a law should be based on, like, certain moral principles that you have. So if you can't stand by, like, abortion being legal or illegal and you have to say states' rights, right? Because you're like some kind of big brain centrist or whatever, then you're a pussy and you can't stand by what you actually believe.
It was simply a question of practical matters.
Sperm is sacred, yes. Actually, that's biblically accurate, is that they did believe sperm was sacred.
Ardent, pragmatic defender of abortion would shrug and say, well, they made their beds, they will have to give birth in them, and go on. What? Question of abortion being repealing of Roe versus Wade, and the restoration of the question of abortion being returned back to the states. If this was simply a question of practical matters, then even the most ardent, pragmatic defender of abortion would shrug and say, well, they made their beds, they will have to give birth in them.
What? What if she didn't choose to become pregnant? You know? Like, what if she was... First of all, what if she had sex and was not trying to conceive? Or what if she was... You know, there are many circumstances in which somebody might have sex or be a victim of sexual assault or something like that, and then become pregnant as a result of that and not want to carry the pregnancy to term, okay? There's a certain point during pregnancy where brain activity begins, and I believe that you should take that into moral consideration. You know, viability is a thing. I believe that. I still believe abortion should be allowed up until the point of birth because of health reasons, and doctors should be making those decisions, okay? I don't think the government helps at all by putting any kind of restriction on it. But my point is, before the point of viability, I don't give a flying about the fetus. Yeetus that fetus, in fact. Shoot it out of a fucking cannon, okay? Splatter it against the wall and then measure how big the... New Olympic event. You take the aborted fetuses of people who did not want them, and you put them into a cannon, and then you aim them at a target, and you measure where it landed on the target, how big the splat is, and all that, and then you get judged based on that. New Olympic event. There you go. That's
relevant. About their day. However,
I don't care.
Pro-abortion activists instead found themselves in a horrendous position, lamenting the lack of moral rectitude that had befallen the United States.
Rectitude?
There were some places in their country where women were not entitled to sacrifice their own children to restore the moral order of the nation.
Their fetuses.
Needless to say,
embryos
this will trouble them forever, and they will never let it go. As with the Mayans and the Aztecs, death is a core part of their moral system,
He's okay. This is like this is hidden racism, right? The Mayans and the Aztecs were brown people, so he can refer to them as doing human sacrifice when even the Romans did human sacrifice. Okay, like gladiator battles were literally human sacrifice, man, a lot of the time. Like so you're doing some racism, but the main point here is this is not human sacrifice, because I don't consider a fetus to be a person until it's born. Once it's born, it's a person, and then anything that you do to that person, like if you kill that person, now you've committed murder or human sacrifice, as you say. Okay, but it's not a person until it's born. 24 to 5 weeks, I think, is when brain activity starts. Yeah, it's about 24 weeks. And that is the point at which I believe, yes, you should start taking that life into consideration, you know? But before that point, I don't give a flying
and the inability to sacrifice a human life to restore the moral order makes them feel that the world is fallen.
Real talk. I know that I've joked a lot this segment. I don't like abortion, guys. I don't. And I've said this before. Abortion is an invasive procedure that you should avoid if you can, okay? Through measures that conservatives don't want, mind you, like birth control, okay? More often than not, if somebody's against birth control, they're conservative, all right? Safe sex, teaching children safe sex practices. Conservatives are against that too because it's grooming, right? So I don't want you getting pregnant if you don't want to get pregnant. This isn't a matter of me wanting pregnant people to get abortions. If you're pregnant, I don't want you to have to get an abortion. I want you to want that child, okay? And you're way more likely to want that child if, one, you had education. Here, I'll list it out. One, you had education, which would inform you of the consequences of having sex, right? Unprotected sex. You have that. Two, you have access to methods of protection, such as condoms, birth control, things like that, right? Or even like surgical procedures to make it so that you're permanently, you know, not able to have children if that's something that you're interested in. Okay, I think that should be allowed. Not if you're underage. I think that should wait until you're adult. But like, you know, if you're underage, access to protective methods, right? Three, education. Did I already say education? Sorry, that's one I already said. What's the third one? Damn it, I had 4 really good ones. ADHD, whatever. My point is, you should, oh yeah, I remember. You should have access to resources for childcare, right? Resources for childcare, such as having a good wage when you're working, a livable wage for both you and your child. Paid leave. What else? Childcare, right? Affordable childcare. Affordable food and diapers, right? Just affordable shit. All things that conservatives don't want you to have. So spare me this bullshit. Until you support measures that actually will help pregnant people have children and raise them with the fewest amount of issues possible, off. You don't actually care about that fetus. You don't care.
Brought to calamity, immoral, and in need of purification. Child sacrifice is, of course, not the only
Go purify
aspect
yourself,
of death
man.
that the left seeks to leverage in order to make our civilizations fully in line with their own moral view of the universe. There are many other ways in which people must be sacrificed. Euthanasia is the latest moral fad to sweep liberal thought, because another core pillar of liberalism is...
I love this stance because its end goal is reducing abortions in the long run because they definitely suck. They do suck. Guess what? My ex had one. I had to help her with that. That sucked. You know what made it suck even worse? The fact that I was raised in a conservative family who said that they would disown me if I ever helped anybody get an abortion. They still don't know that I did that. So yeah, that made it worse.
Is the alleviation of suffering at all costs. Suffering in
I don't give a shit if they find out now.
To be
They can
an
suck it.
intrinsic aspect of life. All people would, at some point, suffer. Christianity taught that suffering was to be endured in order to reach a higher
They're rough.
spiritual
They're really
plane,
rough.
and therefore prohibited suicide as a sin. Suicide inflicts terrible emotional pain on the victim's friends and family. To kill your...
Yeah, the best way to keep somebody from committing suicide is to tell them that it's a sin, actually, and that they'll go to hell if they commit suicide. If somebody wants to commit suicide so badly that the only way to stop them is to tell them that they'll suffer eternal damnation if they do it, you're doing it wrong, man. It's like, oh yeah, your life here sucks. Well, guess what's going to suck worse? Going to hell. Why don't you make their life better instead? Have you thought about that? Why do you have to threaten them with eternal damnation? Go piss on it, genuinely.
yourself is to leave a void in the hearts of those who love you, forcing them to forever wonder if there was something they could have done differently, whether it was somehow their fault. However, to the modern liberal...
Hot take. If they were a conservative, there probably was a lot of things they could have done differently to prevent that.
If a person is suffering in any way, then the moral thing for the liberal to do is simply to encourage them to end their own life. Instead of enduring the pain for the sake of others and to attain a higher spiritual goal, the existence of the pain itself puts the world outside of the correct moral cosmic order, for their goal, the liberal goal, is to end...
Here's another hot take. I think that euthanasia is fine. The problem is that we live in a dystopic capitalist society. So instead of fixing all of the underlying problems that somebody has before jumping to euthanasia, they jump to euthanasia. They're like, oh, well, you don't like your life? Well, I guess kill yourself then, right? That's the problem. Fix people's underlying problems, and then if they still don't want to live, fine. But fix all the other underlying problems first. And our society refuses to do that. And so Canada has decided to jump to euthanasia. Wrong order. Okay, the order of operations is all off here. Fix people's underlying issues. Make sure that they have proper housing, access to food, water, make sure it's all clean and all that, a roof over their heads, health care. And if they have some kind of like chronic pain issue, like constant 8 to 10 out of pain, 8 to 10 out of 10 pain, that they just can't get rid of no matter what they take or do, then yeah, maybe they'd be better off dead. And that's their decision to make. But fix all of their underlying shit first. And yeah, Canada is whack for doing that. But it's your life. If you want to end it, I believe you have the right to do that. But fix all of your shit first.
Pain entirely. Whilst you suffer, the liberal is in an emotional state of unease.
Exhaust all your options before that.
The best thing you can do is to terminate your own life for the moral good of their universe. It doesn't matter if you are an otherwise physically healthy person who is put into a state of depression because modernity has deprived you of a rich spiritual life.
No, what modernity deprives you of is like proper care for depression because of capitalism. It always comes back to capitalism, man.
Them, it is good that you end your life so that they can feel that the scales of pain versus pleasure are not unjustly weighted in the favour of pain. Moreover, you will be venerated as a saint for doing so. You will be
That's not
written up
true. If I could have told, like, listen, if I have the choice, like, if it comes down to my advice, don't do it, okay? You have a very short time on this earth anyway. Very short. It's a blink of an eye in the grand scheme. 80 to 100 years and you're done, okay? Then your goose is cooked and you're underground forever, all right? So my advice, don't do this, okay? It's a long-term solution to a short-term problem in most cases. But in the case of somebody with chronic pain and the state's not helping them at all, what the hell am I going to say? Oh, don't do that, Sweaty? Sorry, Sweaty, you're actually being cringe, Sweaty. Don't kill yourself, Sweaty, right? Like, what am I going to do? Clearly, she made up her mind. She's exhausted all of her feasible options, and if we lived in a non-capitalistic society, maybe she would have had more options. Just maybe. Then she wouldn't have killed herself, okay? But like, what am I gonna do? I'm just sitting here, okay? I don't have chronic pain. I don't have depression. I have issues, don't get me wrong, but like, I don't live these people's lives. I can't make that decision for them. All I can do is recommend that they only resort to that as a last resort.
Liberal newspapers as a virtuous person, despite the damage you have done to the lives of those who loved you. Because you...
Why don't you do this, Sargon? Give me some recommendations. Instead of like sitting here preaching, right? Give some recommendations that this person actually could have proceeded with, you know? It's her life, man, exactly. People would rather die in that than continue to suffer in a world controlled by the right. That's true. It's conservatives that control this world, okay? So if people are trying to off themselves in your perfect little conservative world, maybe your conservative little world is not that perfect, my friend.
Felt sad, and your sadness has now disappeared from the world, your sacrifice will be held as an example of moral goodness, and you
Nobody does this. I've never seen anybody do that.
Of the liberal world order. There are many...
You're literally making shit up.
Other examples of how the left has embraced a morality of death. Another, more indirect example...
It's not moral to kill yourself. Don't do it.
Advocacy. Any sensible person would desire border control to ensure that criminal elements of other societies...
Yeah, it's the left that glorifies death when it comes to border control, not the people putting up fucking death traps, right? Like literal spike traps in the rivers that catch people and drown them, right? Right, Sargon, right?
Could be kept out, so they would be unable to harm the nation's own citizens. But the extreme liberal position of open borders is yet another example of how the restriction of some people to preserve others brings the world out of line with the liberal metaphysical order, and this must be brought back into line, even though the liberals themselves know that this will result in death. In liberal philosophy, a liberal democracy is not really liberal.
Did you guys know the only study that has ever been done on illegal immigrants, quote unquote illegal immigrants in the United States is it revealed that illegal immigrants are actually less likely to commit crimes, like violent crimes. Did you guys know that? They're less likely because they don't want to be shipped back across the border. Like, it's still kind of dark why that is, but like, it's true. You are literally less likely to experience crime committed by somebody who came over the border illegally than you are by a homegrown American. I'm just saying.
Distinguishes between different kinds of people. A true liberal views humanity as all of one kind, one people, universal individuals who belong to no place and no time. To have a border between a liberal democracy and a benighted non-liberal state is to render the world immoral and in need of change.
I don't want a liberal democracy. I want a socialist democracy. I want an anarchist democracy. Like we basically just like no gods, no kings, right? I've never considered myself an anarchist, but like I guess that's like the end point of what I would want. So, but like I don't usually think about it because like we're just never going to reach that point. But since we're on the topic, I think that an ideal society would have no borders. It would have some people in charge of some things, sure. We need like people who enforce certain laws because there will always be bad people who do bad things, sure. But ultimately, I think that we're all just people trying to live our best lives, and we would do better without arbitrary lines dividing us, yeah. Like, the only reason the line should exist is to differentiate, like, the names of the places, you know what I mean? Not for any other reason than that. Currently in the UK, some far-right groups are violently protesting immigration lawyers. This cunt bringing this up is hitting close to home. Oh, yeah. I saw that there were some really violent protests going on over there, like some far-right. They'll never bring this up, mind you. Like, the animals on the far right, like not even protesting, it was riots, right? About literally race riots going on over in Europe. It's disgusting. In the UK.
As a step towards
I think it was the
the
UK.
universalization of mankind, to allow as many people as possible to illegally enter into the liberal democracy is a moral necessity because it expands the breadth of the territory of morality. Until all of mankind is under the liberal
He's just
order,
doing great replacement.
then of course there will still be work left to be done. But the more of humanity that is under their remit, the better. They know that this means to allow unvetted, unchecked, and unknown strangers into the country, where they will be free to do.
They should be vetted and checked. I agree with that. Vet and check them, okay? Make sure that we're not letting dangerous people in. I agree with that. I completely agree with that. If you're like a dangerous person, I don't want you near me, okay? I agree with that. Nobody's saying let dangerous people in. Nobody's saying we want these people to come in completely unchecked. What I am saying is that the process should be easier because clearly it's too hard right now. Otherwise, people wouldn't be doing it illegally at the risk of their own life.
To do whatever they please. They know that this makes liberal democracies a haven for foreign criminals, and it's no surprise that there is a disproportionate amount of criminality from such illegal
He's putting
immigrants.
me to sleep.
They have seen the statistics, they have read the news articles, and they don't care. They know there are
1 in 5 U.S. prison inmates is a, quote, criminal alien. That could literally just be because they're here illegally.
going to be
There's no
casualties
context there.
of such a policy, and the victims of these people are worthy sacrifices for the construction of a world order.
I love it so much when illegal immigrants come over and kill people. That's my favorite. That's like a real stance that leftists have. He's right. He's right, guys.
That they can call truly moral.
I
It
love
is a
that.
similar story with the left's desire to empty the prisons. People are prisoners
Let's
not
go,
by
empty those
choice.
prisons.
They are instead victims of society, and so we must liberate
those murderers
them as
out.
soon as possible. In
Another
order
real
to bring
leftist
about
position.
the correct liberal state of affairs. That this will lead to
Very
convicted
real and true
criminals
and good
committing
faith.
more crimes and creating more victims is understood, but accepted.
You know who I want released from prisons? Like one-time drug offenders. I don't give a dude, if you shot up heroin. The only reason I give a if you shot up heroin is because it's not good for you and you shouldn't do it. But I don't think that you should go to prison for it. Okay, that's your body and it's your choice what you put into it. If you decide to put heroin in there, really bad choice, man. But also, I don't think you should go to jail for it. Okay, that's stupid. Why are you going to put people in jail for heroin? For doing heroin? If they're selling it, sure. If you're illegally selling heroin, yeah, your ass should be in prison. I believe that. But if you're just doing it, like, I think you should... No. And weed charges even. People are in prison for weed charges. It's stupid. They should go to rehab instead. Exactly. If you make someone's existence a crime, then you can make anyone a criminal. Exactly. Overstayed their visa. Thank you, Fire. Yeah, that's why there's like 1 in 5 in prison. Yeah, it's not reactionary crime prevention. It's reactionary policy to crime, because prevention would imply that it's not reactionary. If you want to prevent crime, improve people's circumstances.
Because the morality of the issue is not in an individual event. It is in the overarching cosmic battle of right versus wrong. And to the...
What's funny also is they always try to paint like leftist ideals as a religion, when at the same time, they're religious freaks. Freaks! They're freaks about their religion. Have you ever seen them bawl and cry about how we're taking Christmas away from them? How we're like not going to church anymore. We need to find Jesus. They're freaks about religion, and yet they're always trying to pin us down as like religious, as us, as the religious freaks, right? Like, it's disgusting. It's just projection, man. You're the religious freak.
Liberal.
Not us.
Right involves the deaths of innocents, and wrong involves the punishment of criminals.
True.
I could go on, but I think the point has been made that death in the form of human sacrifice is a core component of the left-wing liberal worldview. They need
Based.
to
I love
make
human
the
sacrifice.
world a moral place, and they will stop at nothing until they get it. There is no person too important to be sacrificed. There is no death too gruesome to turn them away from their purpose. They are a philosophy of death, and they embrace that wholeheartedly.
True. I love death. Anyway, it's definitely not the conservatives that love death and the death penalty and people dying of, complications in pregnancy that could have been prevented with an abortion. But hey, or like dying on the streets because they can't afford, their insulin or a place to live, and so they just die in the elements, or overseas because we're, taking over their land. These are all things that liberals support for sure, right? Right, man? Go piss on it.
Hey, thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please be sure to hit the like button, subscribe if you want to see more, hit the notification bell to be notified when I upload. If you enjoy my content, you enjoy what I do, I really appreciate any financial help that I can get. Go to youtube.com/AlecGunterTTV/join. You got some awesome benefits, such as seeing early videos, awesome emotes that you can use in the comments of YouTube videos, and a sweet badge next to your name. So if that sounds interesting to you, I'd really appreciate if you join. It is cheaper than the cost of a blowjob from your mom. So with all that being said, thank you again for watching, and I'll see you all in the next video.